I'm Olivia.
And I'm Amy.
And this is Girls Gone Spooky. So we are just a couple of spooky girls who love spooky things and inspired by some other paranormal podcasts, decided to make our own because we love talking about this stuff and have had some really weird experiences. So do you want to give a little background on yourself before we start?
Sure. Although I should have asked this first. Should I say where I'm from?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, we're not protecting confidentiality here.
Unless you don't want to.
I don't care. So my background, I'm from Fort Collins, Colorado, and went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo for college, which is how I met Olive. And now I'm back in Colorado. I do public health research by day and spooky things by night.
Which shit?
Yeah, exactly. It's called balance. So
it's all about the balance. And I'm Olivia. I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area originally. Also went to Cal Poly, obviously. That's how I met Amy. And yeah, we both have some kind of interesting stories. I can say I work in tech. I do sales and marketing. So we both have day jobs. This is just obviously not, we don't have any, we're not under the illusion anybody is going to listen to this, but it's fun and it's for us. And we live far apart. So I live in Toronto, Canada now. And, like I said before, kind of inspired by some other paranormal podcasts, namely Two Girls, One Ghost, because they are also best friends, I think from college, So like Corinne and Sabrina, if you're listening to this, hey girls. We love your podcast. It's the best. So spooky. But yeah, they like do their podcasts to like stay in touch and talk regularly, and I just think it's like so cute, and you can tell they just like love each other and are besties. So yeah, Amy and I wanted to do the same thing. So without further ado, spooky things. So we have some stories. I think some of our experiences are shared experiences, so it's going to be interesting, honestly, because I feel like we haven't talked about some of these things in a really long time, and so I'm like excited to like rehear your recollection of all of it, because I think like human memory is just such a weird thing and changes over time and like kind of plays tricks on you. So we'll get to that towards the end, but Amy has some interesting childhood stories.
Okay, yeah. So my first paranormal experience came when I was probably 12 or so, which I grew up in a over 100-year-old house and had no weird experiences in there, which I feel like
this is the house that I haven't seen, right? This is your old house?
Yeah, it's very old, very beautiful. And I think, you think of children being more prone to having ghostly friends and experiences, but nothing in that house until we moved to a new house it's in a very desirable neighborhood in Fort Collins, and houses in there almost never go up for sale. So the reason this one was up for sale was because the owner died.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Oh, what? Oh my God. Wait, that just gave me full body goosebumps. I had no idea about that very important detail.
Yeah. So he, not in the house, but it was actually quite tragic because he had been saving to buy that house for a long time. And then I think he had a heart attack skiing. So it was like,
so sad.
His dream came to an end pretty quickly. And so the house is on a lake, and the room that I lived in was upstairs. So it had a nicer view of the lake than the master bedroom. So that was actually his room, according to his siblings who sold the house to my parents. So it's no surprise that that's where things happened. And nothing malicious, but just spooky because it's, when you can tell there's something else there and you can't see it or understand what
Yeah.
it is. It's just an odd feeling. But
Yeah.
I think the first thing that happened was I had a little toy, I guess, that spun around in the sun. It was solar powered, but it had stopped
Mm.
working because it broke. And one morning, I was getting ready for school and I started feeling kind of weird. And I looked around the room, and the toy, was spinning around, but it only spun around one time and then it stopped. So
Mm.
I was thinking that's because it was built to spin like continuously, not just one
Yeah.
time and then onto a halt.
Right.
So that was the first thing that I thought, oh, what is
That's kind of
happening?
weird.
Yeah. So,
Who's in
yeah,
here?
how did that happen? And
How old were you?
I think at that point I would have been 13 or so. We moved.
So like at the time, did you think like because like obviously like if you're feeling kind of weird, but if this was the first experience, did you try and like logic it away or did you not even think twice about it until more stuff happened? Or like what was kind of your thought process in the moment?
I think I wasn't scared, and I just, yeah,
Mhm.
I was thinking, oh, this must just have been something the toy came back started working
Yeah.
again. But I
Yeah.
did tell my parents, and then we were all, well, apart from my dad, who did not believe anything.
Classic.
We were just on alert.
Classic.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think then from there, my parents' bedroom is right below mine, and they would hear footsteps in the night, like middle of the night, 2 or 3 a.m. And they
Mm.
would obviously come check because they thought maybe I was like sick or something in the night,
Yeah.
but I would be sound asleep. So that's something.
Dude.
And yeah, there have just been a lot of little things. One story that's really stands out to me though was just a very weird nighttime experience where
Mhm.
it was like Christmas Eve, I think, actually. I think I was probably 17 at this point, about to
Mhm.
go off to college, and um, I was, it was cold in that room. It's full of windows, and it was
Mhm.
December, so I was all bundled up going to bed. But then I woke up and I had taken off all of my clothes. And I wear a lot of rings and bracelets and necklaces, and I had taken them all off and laid them down in very neat rows. And I was laying on top of the covers, like with my arms fully out. And I have no memory of doing any of that. So
Okay,
that's,
that is so
I know.
freaky. I don't think I've heard some of these stories.
Yeah.
Oh my god. And okay, and for the record to all of our listeners, our imaginary listeners, I have been to this house. I've slept in Amy's room in the winter time, and it gets cold. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. You would not be, hanging out on top of the
and
covers.
right. And so did you wake up in the middle of the night or you woke up in the morning like
Middle of
that?
the night.
Okay, even scarier. Don't like
I
that.
know. And then because I was scared, I don't know why we didn't sleep somewhere else, but Megan, my sister,
Right.
came and slept with
Yeah.
me the next night. And
Okay.
I don't know if it was just the power of suggestion, but she was sleeping and felt such a heavy weight on her chest that she was convinced that there was someone on top of her. But she couldn't open her eyes because she was too scared to check.
Oh god.
So
Yeah.
I think that is kind of weird because the experiences up to that point had been, like the spinning toy, just little
Mhm.
things, little feelings. But then as we got older, they got weirder. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I don't want to suggest that it's some creepy man ghost. That was,
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say, I mean, that gives like a kind of like a pedo vibe a
yeah,
little bit.
like we were children and then we weren't. So the ways
Yeah,
that he was interacting changed.
presumably,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Interesting. Did you ever look him up, like anything about his life? Do you know anything else about him?
no, I don't. His siblings told my
That's
parents a
sad.
little bit about him. I forget a
Hmm.
lot of it.
Oh, when they were selling them
Hmm.
the house. I
Yeah,
see. Ugh,
but
wow.
mm,
That is, I really don't like that with the, and like also, again, context, like Amy never takes her rings
no.
off. Like, I've seen you change your necklaces on occasion, but like these rings are like talismans, I feel.
Yeah.
So we'll probably get more into at some point all of Amy's like witch shit, but I'm convinced Amy is a witch. And not like she's hiding it, but that it's just the magic is in
Yeah.
there
Which we
and
proud.
it just sometimes gets tapped
Mhm.
into.
So,
Wow,
yeah.
wow, wow. Um,
So what about you?
so I had night terrors, have night terrors, I suppose. They got really bad when I was probably in middle school, which like I've done a little bit of research about them, and that's pretty common just because like your hormones are changing, your brain chemistry, whatever. And for me, the way that they usually, because I think it's a little bit different for everybody, it seems, and it's kind of hard to know like what the difference is between a nightmare and a night terror. And I think like the main thing is usually that, well, one is sleep paralysis where you wake up and you can't move, and two is like your subconscious mind, I think, like please don't at me if this is completely off base scientifically speaking, but I think like your subconscious mind is essentially like displaying your dream into your room. So like your eyes are open and but you're kind of seeing your room, you're kind of seeing the dream, but you're seeing it like projected into your space. So it feels really real because it looks like you're in your dream and you're sleeping, your eyes are closed, you're like seeing this horrifying monster or whatever, and then you open your eyes and it's in your fucking room. Like it's so scary. So a lot of people with night terrors document that, like seeing a dark, shadowy figure. And there's so much, I think, on all of these, paranormal podcasts and shows that I've like listened to and watched. There's always this question of like, okay, is it that it's just a night terror and that's all it is, it's just chemicals or whatever, or is it that it's like that experience is allowing you to see something that actually is there but you usually can't see it, or that people without night terrors can't see it. So it's really hard to tell, similar to like in certain tribes, like people with epilepsy or shamans, it's like is it just that, or is it that it's allowing you to tap into something bigger? So that's kind of my whole thing. So through middle school and high school, they got pretty bad. Like I would wake up screaming or crying or whatever, and like my mom would come running into the room. I would like, I think I like terrified boyfriends, honestly, through college and beyond, waking up screaming. I usually warn them before I spend the night,
Fair.
but it doesn't happen all the time. It tends to happen more when I'm stressed. Um, but I've had some like really, I think the scary things I've experienced that are associated with my night terrors, I think are pretty like run of the mill. And so I guess I kind of just sweep them aside because of that, because it's like, well, this is so much like all these other experiences where like you're frozen in place, and like there is a scientific explanation for that because your brain releases a chemical. Again, this is like according to what I've read on the internet, so don't at me, but your brain releases a chemical when you're falling asleep so that you're not acting out your dreams, because it's like a survival thing. And so you would probably die in your sleep, fall down the stairs or off a cliff or whatever, or hit your head. And when you have night terrors, you wake too quickly, essentially, and that chemical doesn't have time to like dissipate. So you're just stuck there and you feel this like heavy weight on your chest. I've had like I feel like I could see something on top of me, or like a dark figure standing over my bed, or like just creepy shit. Like I haven't seen, I think one of the main themes that you hear from people with night terrors is like the hat man, the man with the hat on. Yeah.
No.
We'll probably talk about that at some point. I'll do some more research on it, but like that's a really scary like recurring one that I've never experienced. Knock
Yeah.
on all of the wood. But yeah, they're creepy. I think a couple other weird sleep things I've experienced, very similar actually to the one you're describing. And mind you, the home I grew up in, where my mom still lives, like that, there's no activity there. It does not feel like a supernaturally charged kind of house. It never has. I think it was built in the 70s. There was like another, like an Italian immigrant family that lived there before my parents bought it, and like no deaths. It's not, it's a city south of San Francisco built on landfill. Like it's not like, Native American burial ground or anything like that. We'll get to that, but not like that. So a couple times I would wake up. So I would have a really hard time waking up in the morning. And I think part of it was because of all of this like weird sleep stuff I was experiencing. And so what I had to start to do was play something really loud, like either an alarm or even music, but put it across the room. So I'd have to get up to turn it off, because otherwise I would find a way to like turn it off without fully waking. So I had my computer on my desk in my bedroom that was like across the room from my bed. And I would put the alarm on for like music to play in the morning. And so there was like, it was probably over the span of like 2 weeks. And it was around the time when I would say my night terrors were like really picking up. And so I started researching them. And so again, I don't know if this is like power of suggestion, like you'd said, but I just started thinking about, like, is it really just something chemical, or am I like connected to something and these are like demonic or whatever, just getting freaked out. So, and yeah, so I don't know the answer to that, obviously. But so I would set the alarm for like, 7 a.m. or whatever time I had to wake up to get ready for school. And I would wake up and like in the middle of the night to the music playing. Like, and it wouldn't be, I don't know. I mean, I guess the music probably woke me up, but like at like 3 a.m. or something. And so I was like, okay, this is probably just, whatever. Like it's, the time zone is off and it's whatever. It's technology. I feel like that you can easily just be like, nope, that's nothing weird. So I stopped doing that. And so a few weeks later, so that was like the first thing, because that happened, I think, a couple times. And then I was like, okay, clearly this isn't working. Like I'm just waking up in the middle of the night, not when I'm supposed to be up. So I stopped doing that. And then this thing started happening where I would like close my computer at night and I'd turn it off and close it. Because then I got freaked out. I was like, well, what if there's like a ghost in the machine and it's like, whatever. So I would turn it off and I'd close it and I'd go to bed. And then in the mornings I would wake up, my computer would be open and it would be on. Like the screen would be up. Like it was a laptop. So it wouldn't be shut. It would be open as if someone opened it physically. And so then I started getting really intentional about it. Like I would like turn it off, close it, take a photo of it on my phone, get in bed, and then it would still happen and I'd have the proof. So I'm like, okay, I must be getting up. Or, the first thing I think is like, there's someone in the house. Like I'm more likely to be afraid of people, I think, initially than ghosts usually. So that really freaked me out. But the last thing that happened is it felt like things were kind of like coming to a head. And I woke up one morning with my hair like perfectly French braided in 2 French braids. Wow. And I can French braid on my own head, but like these were perfect. Like these were perfect braids. I think I actually ended up wearing them to school that day. But I was like, I woke up and I was like, what the fuck? And was like feeling down my head. And I was like, did I put my hair in a ponytail? Like, what's going on? I look in the mirror and I was like, okay, no. Like that's just so freaky. I do not like that. So yeah, so I don't know. I can't remember. I'm sure I told my mom and she was probably just like, You clearly are active in your sleep. It's you. Like, it's not a demon. It's you doing these things. But she's funny because she's one of those people. She has her own experiences, and I'll get into those at some point. But like, she's very rational. And like, I think even if she believed it was something supernatural, she would still say like it's not, because she wouldn't want to like hype me up more. So she's super rational. But I think the other thing, just a couple other like odd things that have happened. So, and I don't know, maybe this is connected to the night terror situation, but I've definitely seen, you know, you hear on these podcasts about like the shadow people. I definitely have that kind of experience, like actually pretty frequently. But it's not usually like it's standing in my room. Like that's not my usual experience. I get those associated with night terrors, but it'll usually be like the one example that really comes to mind. I was driving home to my mom's house and I was in the dark. It was nighttime. And, you know, it's suburban, like winding through like, you know, streets and past cul-de-sacs and stuff, but it's very well lit because it's the suburbs. So I'm driving and, you know, the speed limit's like 20 miles per hour or something. So I'm like going pretty slowly down the street, like that turns onto my mom's. And I saw, like, clear as day, saw a guy walking, like, and I assumed walking his dog, because, like, why would you be walking alone at night? Like, you know, I don't know, it just seems kind of odd. And so I was, like, kind of looking at him from a distance and then looked back at the road and then was slowly passing, like, as he was walking behind a car, I was driving past. And then I looked in my side view and there wasn't anyone coming across the car. And so I like slowed to a stop and like turned around and looked. He didn't get into the car. He didn't go up the driveway. Like there was no one there. And I was like, okay. And I'll get this thing sometimes where I see like dark spots. Like it's almost like it's a bug or something flying by. But so I'm not sure if it's that or if it's like a trick of the light or like my eyesight's not great. So it could be something like that. But it'll happen like maybe power of suggestion, but it'll happen in like groups. So I'll see these like things go by my eye line, like, I don't know, 5 times in a week or 2 weeks. And then I'll see one of these like shadowy things that like then disappears. And I'm like, what is that? Like, I don't like that.
Did that guy have a hat on?
No. Well, you know what? I hate that you just asked that because I actually don't know, and that gave me a chill. That gave me a chill. I actually don't. I'm trying to like conjure the image in my mind. I don't remember. I have such goosebumps though right now that you said that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like that was very long-winded, but those are all of my weird experiences. Not all of them, but just they're all in that same theme.
Yeah. It reminded me of another thing going back that was kind of essential to the story. I don't know how I forgot about it, but I went through a period in high school where I woke up at 3:33 every night for like a month. And I didn't really know, I wasn't really aware of the witching hour at that point in life. But now I know. And I would love to do more searching about that topic.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I'm going to like write some of this down so we don't forget.
I don't know much, like, why did that become known as the witching hour?
I don't know. I mean, I would assume because there's no 666 time, so it's like that cut in half, but there's got to be history behind it.
Yeah, there must be.
Do you want to intro our weird college experience?
Sure. So, like we said, we met at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo, California. And, well, we met...
Go Mustangs.
Yeah, go Mustangs. We met our first year. We lived next door to each other in the dorms. became friends and decided to live together our second year. And there are these on-campus apartments up in Poly Canyon, it's called. So they're on campus technically, but it feels very isolated. It's up in a canyon, just like the name suggests.
Yeah. It did feel really isolated. Yeah, you had to walk through that winding path to kind of get
Yeah,
there.
and like I remember there being mountain lion warnings, and that
There was one in the
turkey.
quad.
Yeah.
The turkey, yes.
So yeah,
Oh my
just
god,
up there
yes.
in the canyon with the wildlife, etc.
Yes.
So our apartment was in this building called Wasna, and I don't remember how soon after we moved in there we started having things happen.
Yeah, it was definitely before, so it had to be first or second quarter because a lot of weird stuff happened right before we left for winter break. I
Yeah,
remember.
yeah, that
Um
sounds right. But I don't even remember also the very first thing that happened. But
I don't remember the chronology very well. Aside from just like feeling like they're like being watched kind of, which I felt like followed us to the Del Norte house too.
a little bit, yeah, I felt that too. It was just, it was kind of chilly in there. It felt a little
Mhm.
sterile. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, we all started, so we lived with two other girls as well. And neither of them are very in tune with this sort of
Mm-mm.
thing, but they had
Mm-mm.
similar feelings. And I think I remember mostly when Kayla, our other roommate,
Mhm.
talked about seeing someone in her doorway.
Oh my god. Yeah, I was going to say I think the doorway thing was the what we all finally were like, "Wait, you're experiencing that
Yeah,
too."
I know. We all, I think, separately had that feeling, or the
Mhm.
out of our corner of our eyes
Yeah.
seeing someone in the doorway.
Yeah. Yeah, so we lived on the first floor of, there were like multiple of these buildings. And like Amy said, we lived in Wasna on the first floor, and um, actually the two guys, so Amy and I ended up dating guys who were roommates in that same building as well. So they were on the fourth floor, which ended up being such a blessing because there were a few times where I think we both like fled our apartment. We're like, we're coming over. Um, but yeah, I think, yeah, that must have been the first thing that any of us really properly noticed. So we'd be sitting because so it was furnished because it was an on campus apartment. So um we each had, our like dorm style twin bed basically, and a desk and like a little like dresser kind of thing, and whatever, a closet. And all of our desks were like definitely not facing, like not like back to the door, but they weren't like facing the door either. And so there were just so many instances where I would be sitting at my desk and I would swear that I either saw Amy, and Amy has like long blonde hair and it's very blonde. So it's not, you don't miss that. It's not dark. Like in a dark hallway, it stands out. So there were so many instances where I'd see or think I'd see Amy walk by because her bedroom was at the very end of the hall and mine was like the second one down the hall. So I'd see her walk by and I'd literally say, "Hey, Aim," like, because I'm thinking she's getting home from class, whatever. No response. And I'm like, "You're rude." So I would like get up and lean out the door and look down the hall, and her door's open, the lights off. Like she's clearly not in there. And then I'd text her and be like, "Hey, are you home?" And she'd be like, "No, like I'm on campus. I'll be back in, 30 minutes or whatever." It's like,
Yeah.
okay. And then it was like I could see her standing in the door, like just waiting, like to get my attention. And obviously, like if we're studying or whatever, I mean, I usually had headphones in, so it didn't seem weird that I wouldn't hear you. And you're pretty soft spoken, so it's like I could see my music being turned up too loud to hear you. And then the same thing, like I'd turn, not be like, oh, creepy, and he's just standing there, but I'd be like, oh, she's probably trying to get my attention. I'd like turn and take my headphone out, and you wouldn't be there. And it was like, and then I'd call your name, and either you'd be in your room or you wouldn't even be home. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, it's weird that you always saw it as being me, or not always, but often.
It was. I mean, I think it was because it was always blonde.
Weird. I remember seeing more like a shadow, not a distinct person. And I'd love to ask Kayla what she used to see. I don't remember her saying specifically like, if it was
that
a
it
person.
was you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Kayla had, because your room setup, you had a better view of your door from your desk, whereas Kayla and I had the same setup where our desk was at the very opposite side of the room, like kitty corner from the door. So, and the doors or the rooms were kind of long and narrow. So I wonder, we should ask her and see what she says. I know, like with I think the theory is that like most spirits can't present as someone who's not themselves, but that like other entities can. And so I wonder too if like was it different entities or I don't know. I mean, or the fact that it's like probably Native American land that, was stolen and then they built the school there. Like I don't know. It's like it's hard to wrap my head around. And the fact that because I think spirits can present themselves or keep themselves hidden a lot of the time. So it's like maybe other entities can do that to different extremes too. Like if it presented to me as you because it felt for whatever reason that I was going to be closed off to seeing just a generic shadowy figure versus like presenting more of its real form to you because it felt you were more open to it or something along those lines.
That's interesting. Yeah.
I've clearly thought about this a lot.
Clearly. It's a good theory because I have no other way of explaining it other than there is a presence there. And this will go into the next part of this story, that I never felt like it might have been a child. But then I started thinking that after the incident in your room, which should I tell my side of the story? Okay.
Yeah.
So I just remember it was maybe before winter break when that happened.
I think so.
That things started showing up like scratches on our hallway. And I thought it might have been like our backpacks scratching. And it would leave just a very fine, I guess, charcoal colored line.
Yeah, like dark. It was a dark color.
It didn't look like pencil or pen, but it was just, like a scratch in the wall, but dark colored. And so that started happening, and I noticed it on both sides of the hallway, almost as if somebody was like walking down it with their hands out or something.
Yeah, running their nails on it or whatever.
Exactly. So that started showing up, and then we all went to winter break, and I know you left first, maybe.
I think so.
And you had locked your room because we were going to be gone for a long time. And we all had separate keys to our rooms from the front door. So none of us could get in there. And when we got back, was it you that found it, that there were circles like on the back side of her door in her bedroom, Olivia's bedroom?
I think it was, actually, I think it was you. I think you saw it because I think you came in when I was unpacking my things and you were like, what's that? And I was like, what's what? Because when I opened the door opened and covered that part of the wall. So I didn't see it until you came in and like closed the door behind you. And then you're like, what's that? And I was like, what's what?
Yeah. And it looked very intentional. It wasn't again, like
Yeah.
the door hitting the wall or the doorknob hitting the
Yeah.
wall. It was
It was below, because it was lower than
it was as if somebody was sitting on the ground, like drawing circles on
with
the
a
wall.
marker or something. Yeah. Oof. Yeah. And then I think it was shortly thereafter that the door thing happened with the door slamming. So I was home alone and I was working on a paper, and again, like, can see my door just in my peripheral vision, so not getting a straight on view. And so I'm sitting at my desk and working on this paper. I've been staring at my screen for forever, and I see something out of the corner of my eye, like moving, I think, and I'm home alone as far as I know. So I'm like still working on my paper. I think I see something move, but I'm like, whatever. And then I can see that my door is moving. And so I turn to look at it. And when I turn, it's moving slowly closed, and then it suddenly slams, like from being like, 3/4 open or something. So it's like these are heavy, like metal doors from these, dorm room style. Like, so my first thought is, oh shit, there's someone in the apartment. And so I run to the door. We had deadbolts on our doors, and so I deadbolt it. And I'm in my bedroom, and again, we're on the first floor. So I'm like, do I jump out the window? Like I could go outside, but then I have no way to get back in. Like, I think my keys were on the kitchen counter, and I was like, oh my God, like, what do I do? So freaked out. So I'm like, okay, looking around my room for some sort of weapon. I was like, why don't I keep a baseball bat in here? So I grab a textbook, I think, and I like pound on the door, and I'm like, who's out there? And obviously there's no response. And then I think I did that a couple more times and was just like, whoever it is, like, I have a bat and I'll beat the shit out of you if you don't get out of here. No response. So I like open the lock, snatch open the door really fast, like poke my head out. There's no one there. And I'm like, okay, what the fuck? So I go through the whole apartment. I'm like, if some motherfucker is hiding in the shower and tries to pounce and murder me, like, I'm going to be pissed. So I was like going through the whole place, and there's nobody there, obviously. And I'm like, okay, how is this possible? Like, how could that have possibly happened? And so our AC was off. There was no, like, the front door had that like rubber lip on the bottom so that the air couldn't get in or out. All of our bedroom windows were closed and locked. Like, it was just like, and I know Kayla sometimes left hers propped open. So I thought, well, maybe it was something to do with that. But I went in there and it was closed and locked. I was like, what the fuck? And I feel like that was when I think we actually, because like you and I had kind of talked about it, and then like you and Kayla had kind of talked about it, and then like Lauren got in. But I feel like that was the first time we like all like talked together and we're like, you're all feeling something real weird, right? Like, this is not just me and Amy. Like, we all are having a weird experience.
Yep. And we all were.
And then you guys kind of tried to talk to it.
Did I? I don't even remember that.
In Lauren's room. And you remember with the necklaces on the door and they were like swinging?
Oh, yeah, vaguely.
Oh my God. I don't know how that's not imprinted in your memory. You just recall like recounting that story to me. It was so terrifying to me.
Well, you have to tell it, because I have another one that's like the main one to me.
I think I know which one you're talking about. So I'll tell this one quickly. So Lauren was like, I think we should try and talk to it. And I don't know what Kayla said, but I was like, no, count me out. Like, I don't know. And that kind of stems, like I said, my mom is like, she says she doesn't believe in these things, but she's kind of like a never say never sort of person. So for example, I had all these like witchcraft books, and they'd have like hexes and like dark, like black magic sections. And she'd be like, just don't read those sections. Like, seriously, like, not in my house. Don't open those. Like, you don't know what you're inviting in. And I don't either. And like, she was raised Catholic. I was raised Catholic, we've all seen The Exorcist. I think she just was like, no. So anyway, Amy and Lauren ended up being the ones to do it, and they did it in Lauren's room, which then created some weird activity for her too, because she had her like blanket snatched off her, and we had these like odd chairs that like would kind of rock but not fully rock, and it like fell over or something scary. But anyway, so the way that you recounted it to me, or maybe Lauren did, but one of you said that you guys were both sitting on the bed and said something along the lines of like, we know you're here, you know, like show if you're present with us now, like show us a sign. And I think like nothing really happened. And then I think you guys said that you'd said something along the lines of like, you know, we like understand if like this is your space, but like this is our home, and like you're not welcome here. Like you're starting to scare us. You're not welcome here. And at some point around then, so Lauren had this like towel rack that she hung over her door, but instead of putting like towels or coats or whatever on it, she had these like long like costume jewelry necklaces, and so she had those hanging. And you guys had said it was like someone had just like swiped their hand across them, and they were just like swinging like that, but hard enough that I think a couple fell off. So like they were swinging hard enough that like they fell off of the hook, which is like, you'd have to hit that pretty hard. Like that's freaky that it happened at all, but that whatever it was could manifest enough physical energy to do that. Like that really scared me, because it was like, okay, if it could hit that, it could hit one of us, like, or scratch us or whatever, hurt us. That scared me.
Okay, I don't remember that. I do remember it being told that. I don't know if I was there.
Yeah. Oh, maybe it was Lauren and Kayla.
I wonder, or Lauren did it by herself.
That's very possible. I always assumed you were there, but it's funny because whenever I've retold that story to anybody, I always think like it's kind of funny that Amy would opt into that, because I'd think that you'd be in the same boat as me, as like, I don't want to talk to it. Like, okay, then I had that wrong.
I think, I wouldn't choose to do that. I will never touch a Ouija board ever, but I did once have a seance when I was like 7 years old with my sister's friend. And our babysitter came out. We were just in the yard holding hands, like trying to conjure her grandmother to come back. And the babysitter came out and was horrified. Like, called our parents and was, you need to tell them not to do that. So clearly she must have believed in something.
She must have been so
Can you imagine?
No, actually, yes, because I've had some creepy experiences babysitting. Kids are creepy, dude. Kids are so scary.
They're so open to anything and
so open and fearless.
Exactly.
They're just fearless. They're like, nothing bad's gonna happen. You're like, you don't know that, child.
Like, they haven't lived yet.
Holy,
it's so funny.
Oh my god. Okay, tell your pinnacle moment.
Okay, yes, the peak for me was I was home alone, and I was getting ready to go meet Megan, my sister, who also went to Cal Poly. And I was standing, I had my laptop open, playing music, and I always had that, and the screen would always go black. I didn't have a screensaver. It was just dark when I hadn't interacted with it in a while. But I felt suddenly cold, like that apartment was already cold, but I got a shiver. And so I turned, and my computer was like, it looked like static on a TV, but like colorful. And I thought, wow, I've never seen that before. So I went over to shake the mouse, and I had my phone in my hand. And when I walked over to that, my phone battery just died immediately. It was like as if there was some sort of vortex or like electric something going on. I have no way to explain that. And so I just ran out of the apartment. I grabbed my keys and I just bolted. Yeah.
Bolted.
So that was the peak for me. And it's also interesting because Megan, my sister, lived in Wasna also. And I think our room number was 112. And she lived
Mm-hmm.
in like 212 or something.
212, yeah, like right
Yeah.
above us, I think.
And she had an experience where she was taking a bath, and suddenly all the stuff that was on their shelf above their toilet just fell down. And like California has earthquakes. You could try to
Yeah.
explain it that way, but she did not feel as if that was an earthquake. It was too
Yeah.
intentional that the things all fell off at one time.
Yeah.
So there's something going on in that building, and I would love to know more
Yeah.
about the history of that place to see if anything falls into place for
Yeah.
us in our memories.
Yeah, there was other creepy stuff that would happen in the bathroom too. Like there were these like industrial like style like shower curtains. They were like PVC
Mhm.
or something. They were really
Yeah.
heavy and they were metal with metal rings on metal rods. And this was the first time Kayla and I spoke about it. It was just the two of us home, and I think her bedroom door must have been closed, but mine was open, and I could hear that like awful like fork scraping on a plate noise. And I was like, ooh, what is that? And so I go out in the hallway and it's coming from the bathroom. And I was like, oh, it sounds like the shower rings are moving. And so I go into the bathroom and it stops. And I was like, okay. And I didn't see like the shower curtain move or anything like that. But I thought, like it could be like someone just showered and like the heat, I feel like there are weird like physics things with that where like it, as it's drying and cooling, like it expands or whatever. So I just didn't really think anything of it. I go back in my room and then it starts again. And I was like, okay, what? So I like go and knock on Kayla's door and I'm like, did you hear that? And she was like, hear what? And I was like, that awful like metal sound. It sounds like the shower curtain or something. And she was like, I hear that all the time. And I was like, well, keep your door open because like it keeps happening and I don't know why. And she was like, well, let's go in and like shake it out and like open it. And so we did that. And then we could hear the rings scraping again. So we both like run out into the hallway and it was like moved. It wasn't like, oh, it was all the way open, but it was not where we had left it. And so again, it could be some like, thing with it drying, but I think like neither of us had showered yet that day or something. So it was like we couldn't wrap our heads around what the like logical explanation would be for that. But I think what we all sort of thought is because that area of California is historically Chumash land, that, it could be either just land or burial site or who knows, like where those peoples were, you know, being, I don't know, who
Yeah.
knows?
That's
White
what
people
I'm saying.
did some
Yeah.
shit. So it's like wherever they were
Yeah.
being like colonized, I don't know. Like it was not very pleasant and just a very eerie feeling in that apartment all the time. I feel like we all just felt super unsettled.
Yeah.
And you were in good health at that time, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was not. So Amy and I have both struggled with some like chronic illness issues. Mine have, for the most part, kind of gone away, but had some like very serious chronic digestive issues that were like never fully diagnosed, at least not by like Western medicine doctors. But I was really sick when we were in that apartment. And I mean, I don't necessarily think like, oh, that was a haunting, but like, I think for me, that like the stress of having that like tension in the apartment definitely didn't help. Like it was like, I think we all had stomach aches. Mine was just like
Yeah.
compounded on already having a messed up
Yeah.
digestive system. So yeah, it was a very kind of very eerie situation. So
Yeah. And I never felt unsafe, but I definitely felt scared That's not easy to live with.
Yeah. I'm trying to like think back to how I really felt. I mean, that when that door slammed, I was scared. Like genuinely really scared. Like feared that something bad was going to happen to me. But I think that was probably the only, well, actually that's not true, because when we found those scribbles on the wall, I was like, why is it in my room? Like, why am I being targeted? I don't like that.
Yeah. Interesting. But it seems like a lot of things did happen in your room. So maybe it was like the center.
I don't like that. Well, yeah, and then so we lived there for 1 year, and then we moved to a house where we then lived for our third and fourth years. So we lived there through the rest of college, which we fondly called that house the Cookie Monster because it was blue, and we are monsters. So we really love cookies. So yeah, I don't know. I felt weird vibes in that house too, but nothing weird happened really. I just had like a someone's watching me kind of sensation, but I feel like that could be anything, you know, that could be just me kind of freaking myself out after our experience previously, but yeah, I feel like even just talking about this has brought up like so many other things that we need to talk about.
I know.
Like research. So yeah, so I guess we can wrap this one up, but we've got a lot to talk about.
We do. It's exciting.
I know, it's very exciting. Okay, well, I'm gonna call you after this. FaceTime you, not on this platform, but to anyone who's listening,
thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for listening, and welcome to Girls Gone Spooky, and follow us on Instagram at Girls Gone Spooky. And if you have spooky stories,
I was just gonna say,
please email them to us at girlsgonespooky@gmail.com or DM us on the Instagram handle. We'll probably make a Facebook group at some point if that feels appropriate. So stay spooky, and we'll release another episode in a week or so.
Yep.
All right. Bye y'all.